Yeah, so before getting into your music and speaking about that in the band, I wondered, do you recall the first time you played in Edinburgh?
First time in Edinburgh. I do remember that time, but there must, because the thing is, like, we just always ended up in Glasgow a lot of the time. So I think the first time we got to Edinburgh, it was like a bigger. It might have been the Corn Exchange, but that's like on the second album. Yeah. I just remember it because Johnny got headbutted by Pete Doherty the evening before at Leeds Festival. So we were like up all night, kind of talking on the bus, just me and him. And I remember we were going to Edinburgh Corn Exchange, but I can't remember any small gigs. I did a whole bunch of small ones with Lucy Rose. Like, there's a wee one just above Waverley. You kind of go up.
Sneaky Pete's. Would have been that one, or the Mash House maybe.
I think it was Sneaky Pete's.
Yeah, it's a nice big venue. Did you play Glasgow quite a lot on the way up? Was that one of the venues that was kind of one of the cities that was on your circuit when you were kind of on your road?
Yeah, loads. I remember we did like 3 rounds of the UK with 3 bands, so we literally played 3 times in King Tut's in the space of like 2.5 weeks.
Was that before the first album, or was that around?
Yeah, yeah. This is like the earliest touring. So like we were always like some of the best gigs we ever did was at Barrowlands. We got to go back there before Christmas, so that was really sweet.
When you were playing King Tut's, and you were kind of on the rise and the way up, what emotion kind of do you most strongly feel looking back on that period, kind of prior to the first album when you were on that rise?
Just joy, I guess, because I mean I grew up in the countryside in Sweden, and it was never on the cards for me to like be in any kind of, I remember we recorded a demo with my band when I was like 17, and I thought that was probably as far as it was gonna get, to spend like 3 days in a little local studio kind of thing. So then for that whole thing to happen is just awesome.
Do you think back to that period a lot, or does it not come to mind too often?
Well, I have done more so now that I kind of rejoin, and it's all, like relearning how to play the old songs and everything. You kind of go back to, and I've got like some old photos scanned from like the first year basically of the band, so it's great to look at those and just, yeah, we're just little kids running around.
When did you come over to London? Why did you come over here?
Well, I moved over 3 days before 9/11, so it's easy to remember. But yeah, I just went straight from school, and then I went to uni in Gothenburg, and then in this other town near Stockholm, and I just wanted to have like a break from just to like live for a year rather than just be at uni or whatever. And then my cousin was living in London, and I had like a summer job as like a kind of a caretaker, custodian type thing. And I remember this girl I worked with, she'd just come back from London, and she just said, no, you just go over there, you go to the Swedish Sailors Church, and there's all these ads like on the wall where you can live, and it's normally like 10 people in 3-bedroom flat kind of thing. And then you just go get a shitty job in a shop and off you go kind of thing. So it just sounded like it was super easy. And then my cousin lived there, so I thought, oh, well, I'll try it, And then if it doesn't work out, well, the idea was to just have like a sabbatical basically, and then come back to uni and finish whatever.
So you didn't expect to stay over here?
No, I'm still technically on a gap year.
How long after you moved here did you answer the NME ad and get involved with Razorlight?
That was, it was less than a year. I think it was around May 2002. Yeah, that's when the ad was up, because there was so many bands playing. I think I saw like the Yeah, Soundtrack of Our Lives and Black Rebel Motorcycle Club in the space of a week. And I thought, well, I have a guitar. I have to be in a band. This is ridiculous, you know, I may as well. So yeah, since I didn't know anybody, it was like the ads in the NME were like the thing. And then by luck, Johnny had put an ad in at just that time.
What do you remember as like your first impression of Johnny when you met him after answering that ad?
Well, it got quite intriguing because the ad ended with, like, they said, call James. It was a phone number. So it's like, okay, phone the phone number, goes to answering machine, and there's a voice going, hi, this is Roger. I can't pick up the phone right now. If you're calling about the ad, it's like, okay, so the ad says James, but this is a person called Roger, and you can tell it was more kind of like managerial type. So I was thinking, what the hell is this? What the fuck? Okay, well. So then Roger phoned back, we set up a meeting, and then when it was just in a pub in Shoreditch, Red Lion, I think it was called. And I walked in, and there's like two kind of middle-aged guys sitting at a table. And it's like, okay, it's got to be them. Okay, so I chatted with them for a bit, and then Johnny just kind of turned up. So I guess they were the first kind of, you know, let's make sure this guy isn't a total numpty, and then we'll kind of text Johnny and he'll come in. Although I'm still wondering, like, as far as I know, there isn't a door from the outside at that end of the pub. So he may have been hiding in the toilets. I'm not sure. But then, yeah, we just talked about music for like 10 minutes. And then he was like, okay, well, come round to my flat. I've got like a little 4-track tape thing, some demos you can play along, and then we'll take from there. I just did that, went to his little attic room up in Holloway.
Do you remember any of the songs that were on those demos?
Yeah, Rock and Roll Lies was one, and I think that's the one I just played along to it, and he was like, that's pretty good. And then we went to see Interpol at the Barfly, and then it got even more intriguing. He's like, all these, because me and my mates were just kind of getting drunk at the Barfly on a weekly basis at that point. And then we were just sitting there having a pint after the gig, and all these people kept coming up to him. It's like, oh, hey, Johnny, how you doing? You know, and we kind of like, you know, more manager-looking, older people and same age as us. And it's like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, I have no idea. And then it turned out like he'd been gigging for ages, and it was basically, in the beginning we had the rhythm section from his old band, which also featured like a piano player, gospel singers. It was much more kind of like a soul-y, gospel-y thing at that point. And then, his guitar players kept doing like really boring blues licks. So that's why he put like no pentatonic in the ad, which basically means blues kind of thing. And then, we did 2 gigs with the kind of, and there was basically like two session guys who were a bit older, and then we realized that no, we should have like a proper band here. And then I got my mate in on bass, and he got his mate in on drums, and that was kind of
those
Mark 1.
Those albums that you put out, the ones that you were involved with, and they were albums that people resonated with at the time, and then when I discovered them when I was a teenager, like 10 years later, I resonated with them.
That's amazing.
And I imagine people with 10 years from now will probably resonate with them again. What do you think it is that makes them so timeless?
No idea, because I thought since things were going really well, it was working in that time, and it was kind of like, because there's a kind of like a vibe of what's going on and things like that, and as a musician you kind of pick up on the general zeitgeist, and then it just makes its way into the music. But that's the tricky thing. It's like, how is this going to work in 10 years, in 20 years? That's the thing. That is a really exciting thing. So, and it's been really cool now, you can see like kind of younger people at the gigs, and a lot of them are like, seem to be more into the newer songs as well, which is like amazing.
That first album as well, how much of that was in place when you came on board? Because I know you came in and kind of worked on a few of the songs and stuff for the first record. Was it a lot of it there when you joined the band, or did a lot of it kind of come after?
Let's see, what do we play? I mean, In the City has to be the oldest song. So I'm pretty sure they did that with the band, like the gospel band, because it's that kind of thing.
It's one of my favourite songs on the album.
Ah, it is. And then, but I think it was just In the City and Rock and Roll Lies that were there before. But then Lies, I don't know if he played that with the band before. And like the first rehearsal we did, Johnny had like the riff and vague outline for Rip It Up. So that was the first thing. He basically just showed us the riff and it's like, okay, it's this long, and then like the chorus goes like this, and like, okay. And we just played it, and it was one of those kind of magic moments where afterwards, you like, everybody could tell that like something had happened that was special. But I think pretty much all of it, we just kind of got together in our dingy little warehouse space that I think, yeah, there was this band called Carnival of Souls whose singer was called Gronk, which I always found really amazing. But they'd got like some Princess Trust thing, and they were renting it. Yeah, it was just like a little warehouse up in like almost out of Walthamstow. So like, yeah, Zone 3 or something, I think, which to me at the time was like halfway to Birmingham essentially. It's like, oh my God, where is this? Yeah, so we would just holed up in there for the best part of a year and wrote, yeah, pretty much all of the first album in there.
Were there a lot of those magic moments that you mentioned? Did that happen quite a lot?
Yeah, the vibe just kept, yeah, it was like Johnny just brought in songs, we played them, and they sounded pretty damn good, and then you kind of work on it, you change bits, try different arrangements, things like that. But I think that's the thing, from the second we got that vibe, we were all, well, maybe Chris a little bit less so, but we were all like quite dedicated, and it was all like, okay, right, now we have like the talent, and like there's obviously a thing here, but then you have to like put the time and effort in and like really work on it, and you know, you have to get the filter out.
Yeah, just become obsessed with it.
Yeah, and that's the thing as well. Like in those early days, you know, like when the stuff starts coming out, like it has to be bloody good. Otherwise, people are just gonna go, yeah, whatever. Next, yeah. So we were always kind of quite relentless with quality control as well.
Although like the period you speak about there for the first album was, it was quite a good atmosphere and a good vibe, there obviously have been kind of periods of tension in the band as well. Do you see that playing into the music, and does that have any positive effects in any way sometimes on this tension?
I think so, yeah. Because it was very kind of compartmental, you know, everybody had their own little turf kind of thing. So like I had the guitars, Carl had the bass, Johnny had the songs, and then but I think like little things like that have to like play into it. But the weird thing is, like, as soon as we got into like a room just making music, then things flowed, you know, much better. But I think like kind of the estrangement and like we kind of started growing apart is when, I mean, it was just a madhouse, because it was, you know, it started out fairly successfully, and then it just got more and more and more. And you know, especially for Johnny, who kind of became like the kind of villain of indie. It was really kind of a lot of pressure, and I think we just kind of coped with it in different ways. So after a while, it was like me and Carl were off here, and Andy was off in some pub, and Johnny was in a hotel. But you know, like it's just kind of coping mechanisms, but purely because we had different ways of coping with it, we weren't really hanging out as much. And I think that's probably where it started to kind of drift apart a bit.
Do you think it's an easier time to be in a band now? Do you think you would get away with the same kind of vilifying, like what you're saying, that happened to Johnny these days, or?
Well, I mean, it's a lot harder because now you have to essentially work your way up to like playing to 100 people on your own, because then like the labels came in fairly early and started kind of helping you along, but now you have to do like everything yourself. Plus there wasn't really social media, so now you have to, I mean, God knows what you do if you're a solo artist, because then you have to do, because you know, you can like fob the social media off on the bass player or something.
When you came back into the band and started playing songs again, did it feel different?
Well, it's kind of hard to say, because it's, I mean, it's like a decade pretty much, and so it's hard to kind of remember the feeling back then, but I mean, it was just great, because I had, you know, like now and again I've listened to the albums and like kind of played along on guitar, and it's like, oh yeah, there's a pretty good idea in there, kind of thing. But then like really diving into them and like playing, and I'm so much better at playing now, and like, you know, getting the right sound and everything. So it's kind of like it's never sounded as good as now. So this is really cool, and then just the fact that the musical intuition, because me and Johnny haven't played a note together. We've seen each other here and there, yeah, but we haven't played together for 10 years, and it was just instantly like the same chemistry. Our timing was exactly the same. It was almost a bit scary that, like, you know, he's been in my subconscious the entire time. As soon as he started playing, it was just whoop, right back into, and it's kind of, yeah, it's especially with our guitars and everything, and like there's no overlap. We just completely like kind of mesh kind of thing. So that was amazing.
How has it been back on stage with them as well? Has your stage presence kind of evolved like the last 15 years? Is that a bit different now when you're back on stage with them? Or?
I mean, he was bloody good then, and he still is. But it's cool to see, like, he's even better at singing, and it's just kind of, it's like an experience thing. You figure out how to, and you know, when you lose some of the youthful spunk, you can kind of gauge it. Because I remember, like, we used to go on stage and there was no, you know, it was all maxed out. We couldn't, you know, and especially if you know, for your voice, if you just completely cane it, that's a bit dangerous. But now he's had, you know, he's so experienced, he can actually go like, okay, so I'm a bit rough today, so then he knows how much he can push it and when he needs to. So it's really, and it's, you know, especially with Matt and Ben are just crazy good rhythm section as well. And they've kind of forensically studied how the songs were played on record and on kind of live YouTube and stuff. So it just sounds immense at the moment.
When you're back now, do you feel that, has the reason you make music and the reason you play music changed at all since when you started the band compared to now, or is it still the same?
Nope. No, I wouldn't have thought. I mean, I just really kind of get off on music, like playing. It's just a pure joy thing to me. And then when you get to play, you know, really good songs, and the person who wrote the songs gives you quite a lot of leeway to come up with crazy stuff. It's just brilliant.
Yeah. And that's quite a nice note to end on.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. Yeah, cheers, mate.